So a video on making the trough shaped planters. Now these planters are going to house wildflowers when they are eventually situated outside and around the school. That will be stage 2. So obviously we need end panels on either end of the planter. They are going to be made, or they are made out of acrylic. They've got the names of the students on the top of the acrylic. They're covered up at the moment so we don't see whose is whose, but it's also got the logo on there to commemorate the World Mental Health Day, which is what the reason behind making these planters in the first place. So materials required are 3 lengths, 1, 2, 3 lengths, which are 2.4 meters of 75mm by 100mm cross section, 6 lengths of 100mm by 25mm, and they are 2.6 meters long. So we've got just the 9 lengths all together. They're all treated, they're all tannalized, which means that they can all they'll all last a lot longer outside when they are susceptible to the different kinds of weather scenarios that we have. They'll also last a lot longer whilst they've got water being ploughed into them every week to keep the flowers hydrated and moist. Okay, so these are the tools. These are all the tools that we need. Your panel saw, you've got your decking screws, 75mm long. You've got your wooden mallet, tape measure, got a Sharpie, just so we can mark out the wood and it's a bit more clear. Wood chisel, tri-square, 2 clamps, decent sized clamps, big enough to go around the 100mm by 75mm and then clamp it to the table. We've got the cordless screwdriver and then the all-important templates, and I'll show you how we're going to use them very shortly. Just take a look. We've got the worksheets here. These will be in the center of each group so that the groups can all make a planter each. The groups will consist of six students in each group. They're all going to be learning marking out skills, chiseling skills to remove the little offcut there, and then they'll be learning how to use the cordless screwdriver effectively, ensuring that there's enough weight being applied to the screw head so that the tip of the screwdriver bit doesn't just slip. So we initially ordered 20 4.8 meter lengths of this 100 by 75mm cross section treated timbers, and then we've cut them into 2 sections so that they're more manageable to move in and out of the stores. So this section is just over 2 meters. I think it's 210. And what I've done here, so we can start marking it out, is I'll put the template there just so we can get that 60 degree line there. Marked it out, and I've just drawn a little dash across halfway down that diagonal line, just there, and that's where I'm going to start the tape. That's where I'm going to start measuring from. And I'm going to measure from there along here to 90 centimeters. Then I'll do another diagonal line across there. Okay, so we've got the tape. The end of the tape's just resting on that dash, and then if I look down the tape, it says 90 here, so I'll just do a dash there at 90, go along to 180, do another dash at 180. Okay. Next step, just draw a diagonal line across there to be parallel with the first diagonal. It's important you get the directions correct. And then the same with this end one here, across there like that. So you'll have 1, 2, 3 lines. Before I clamp this this length up now to start cutting, I've put the templates here. I'm just going to rest the timber over the top of them templates, just so that the offcut side is above the tabletop. This will reduce the amount of compression that could be applied when I start sawing down here. Typically I'll get halfway down the cut and the wood, or the length of timber, will lift up on both sides and cause a compression force against the saw blade, and that'll make it really difficult to continue working the saw through that cut, to the point where it'll probably be impossible to continue the cut. So to planning ahead, we'll just raise the part that you saw that you're going to clamp down. Put the clamps directly above where you've got the 3mm template as well. So you'll put one clamp there, or just move it over, just move the template over. So we'll put one clamp there, we'll put the other clamp above that part, and we'll start sawing down there like that. Okay. A little tip would be, before you start sawing now, before you start that cut, move your tape, because as soon as you get through that cut, you're going to end up coming forward with your saw, whatever you saw, on either tearing or cutting completely your tape. Even if you put a little nick in the side of the steel there, it'll tear eventually. It'll struggle to retract back into the tape measure, and every time it gets to here, every time that little tear gets to the mouth of the tape measure just here, it's going to weaken and will eventually just snap. It'll just the crack will just get increasingly longer, and it'll just break off at some point. So just be careful, your tape's out of the way. This actually isn't retracting properly at the moment anyway. So before you start sawing, just get where your diagonal line is there, just wrap that round using your tri-square, making sure the handle of the tri-square is parallel, flush and touching completely along the edge of the timber there. And then just draw that line along there, flip it round, and do the same on that side. And now you're ready to start your cut. So we're going to start off by the handle with the saw, teeth of the saw, to start the cut. And what you're going to do, make sure this freehand is well away, because if it's there, I don't want you to end up slipping with the saw and cutting your finger. So safety first, keep this hand well away. You can just move it as long as it's approximately the length of a 30cm ruler away from the saw. So I'm going to just gently, just use the weight of the saw, gently pull the saw back 1, 2, 3 times. You've now got a groove on the corner, so you can now comfortably just use the weight of the saw. The weight of the saw is all you need, and you want to make sure that you're not pushing down with the saw, you're not struggling with it, you're just using the weight of the saw. These are relatively new saws. We bought these saws for the project, so they are nice sharp teeth. Use all the teeth across the length of the saw. Don't just concentrate on one area, because that will cause this area to become blunt before the rest of the saw. So use all the teeth on the saw, use them all sparingly, evenly, and continue your cut. Keep checking the front and the back, make sure you're still in line there. Move the camera back a little bit. So keep checking the line there. Keep checking at the back. You started the saw now, you started the cut. Right, we're going to cut right down that line, and I'll be back in a second. So this is where you would struggle if you hadn't used the spacers underneath the timber before you clamped. this is where you'd start struggling. So this gap at the top would be decreasing because of the two surfaces of the desks would be working, causing a hindrance for you. So at the moment, you can still use the saw easily. Right. So, I've cut the timber in half, nice, straight, even cuts. There's no snag in there at all. So I need to now, the next step will be to cut this one. So same sort of thing. Now the material is clamped down, nice and tight, nice and secure. This freehand needs to be at least 30 centimeters away again. I'm going to start pulling the saw back on the corner, 1, 2, 3 times, and then continue that cut down there. The one thing I've got missing off here is my guideline. Okay, so once again, what we'll have to do, unclamp the wood and then make sure that we use the edge, the brass plated flat edge there, to be flush against, so it's like that, flush against the top surface, like this. This brass plate is parallel with this edge, it's touching it like that. Clamp the spring steel blade like this, and then you're free to draw your line. Don't need one on this side because it's the corner, it's the edge of the wood anyway, so you won't be able to get one in there even if you wanted to, it'd be pointless. So I'll clamp it back up, cut this little wedge shape off there, off the end, and then you end up with a sort of rhombus shape. Okay. So the aim here is, if you get one full length of this 2.1 meter, mark it out for 2. These are going to be the legs for the planter. They will be forming the X shapes. So if you can get 2 students to each take over one 2.1 meter length, they can mark it out. Then they'll have 1 each, 6 in the team. Each student's going to have 1 leg each to work on. The next task for the student after they've done this leg is to use the template . So template goes there, put the template up to the end of the leg, then get your Sharpie, parallel line across there. Get your second template, line across there. So this part here, draw some hatching here, diagonal lines. This part you're going to cut halfway in. So again, we'll use the tri-square. Draw your lines down. Now you want 32 millimeters down here. So you'll get your ruler, measure from there, 32 mil down, 32 mil down. Join those dashes up and add more hatching. Very important we do this hatching so that we can see exactly what it is that we are removing. So 30 mil, it's halfway in. I mean, you can guess, as long as you've got a keen eye, you can roughly guess. You can see where halfway is because you've got that gap should be the same as that gap, or distance should be the same equally. Add your hatching there. Okay. And then we're going to use the clamps, panel saw, wood chisel and the wooden mallet. Okay, so what we're doing next, we're going to use the panel saw again, and we're sawing down to this halfway line, this horizontal halfway line. It's 32 millimeters down, And then the same on this side, both sides. We're going to start this cut here as well. So move your hand well away, 300 millimeters away from the saw blade. Start the cut. 1, 2, and 3. So you have a nice groove there now. So you just push the saw, just push it forwards and backwards, making sure you've got some good leverage there, some good movements of your arm. So you're going to be swinging your elbow across your side there, sort of 3/4 around your body. And you saw this all the way down again to the horizontal line. After you've done that, you're going to do a few more cuts. Probably do another 6 cuts within this off-cut part, the off-cut section that you've drawn the hatched lines on. You're going to do another 6 passes, another 6 cuts down to the halfway line. After you've done these 1, 2, 3, 4 additional diagonal lines, you're going to do your 5th one, running sort of 60 degrees to the original lines that you did. So you go the opposite way, and that's just going to cut each segment that you've just made. It's going to cut each segment into two different size segments. That's going to make, it's going to mean you've got 10 pieces, 10 chunks now, and that just makes it easier to remove with the wood chisel. Right, so next thing we're going to do, we'll just show you top view. So we've got all together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that 7th one now goes across the other way. Then you end up with all these chunks, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so that when we come to chisel now, use the wood chisel. We're going to chisel out. You can just, all you have to do is chisel out 1 chunk. It's very important that when you do these saw cuts, that you do actually bring the saw down to the horizontal line on both this side and the opposite side as well. Just rest the camera there. So I'm going to start chiseling now. With these chisels, you can either use just a regular hammer or you can use a mallet. Doesn't make any difference. Hold the chisel, good firm grip. Get your thumb round the shoulder of the chisel like this. Good firm grip. If you tilt it backwards, you can see that the tip of the chisel is on the line. You can lift the chisel up and then just make several, so 2 taps, and you're going to make several passes across that line. With this being a soft wood, a fast growing wood, it means the grain has got large, it's well spaced, the grain's well spaced, there's big space in between, so the chunks do break off pretty easily. So you have to be careful that you don't get, the tip of your chisel doesn't get stuck into a grain and you end up chiseling downwards into the part you want to keep. So this part here, you want to keep. Okay, so I'll just keep going along there. The back of the chisel, the flat side, the continuous flat side of the chisel, is the side that you want to keep against the part of the wood that you are keeping. The chamfered side of the chisel is going to go against the offcut that you're chiseling out, that you're trying to remove. Like that. And then you'll get so far down, don't try and remove it all from this side. What we'll do now, I'm going to loosen the clamps. Just rotate the cut down to the other side. Clamp it back up. and then start again really. Just place your chisel down there, make sure it's on the line, a couple of taps, and then you want to aim for making several passes. It's always best to just keep going over a couple of taps rather than just trying to remove one section of it in one go. So just, if you're going to angle the chisel at all, you want to angle it towards the offcut side. Like that. You can see already these parts are getting loose. We'll just put these out here. Right, so it doesn't take that long to do. Now, after you've got to this sort of stage, it doesn't really have to be, you don't have to worry about it being perfectly smooth and lovely. All you have to do now is try and clamp it like this here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the saw, the panel saw, to remove those last few bits, just so it gets a bit more level than what it is now. So all I have to do now, keep my hand well away, keep my hand over here, away from arm's reach really, and I'm just going to make several more saw cuts. If I wasn't trying to get the camera in view, it'd be a lot safer. Right, so the teeth, basically the teeth of the saw now are effectively shaving away the small little pieces that would hinder the two sides going together to form the X that we looked at earlier. So we've got two legs, both exactly the same depth here, the cuts, same angles. They use the templates here and here. So what we're going to do now is see if they line up. Okay, they line up lovely, nice and flush. Next thing we do, we get four of the 75mm decking screws, and we're going to drill them 1, 2, 3, 4 to secure that cross together. Okay, so after we've joined, you're going to hold the top of the screw on that smooth part of the screw shaft, just below the screw head. You're going to hold it there firmly whilst the sharp part of the screw touches the dot that you just made, one of the 4 dots. You can hold that smooth part of the screw and safely pull the trigger of the screwdriver whilst it spins round. Once you've got the screw into the wood a little bit, or at least like 20mm, you can let go of the screw, hold the work, push down till it gets about there, and then you want to lean your chest over the screwdriver so you can have a bit more weight on it, so that it does actually pull. When that screw goes into the next piece, goes through this one, into the bottom of this one, and it pulls it together. It's going to pull the two pieces of wood together, causing a great deal of compression again to the inside there. So after you've got one of the X's together, the other 4 students in the team will get together the other 2 X's. You then get 1 X for the front, 1 X for the back, and then while the students are holding the two end X's, the main ones, don't put the central one on just yet. You're going to start attaching the diagonal sides. So put this one on first, the top one. So you've got to secure, fix in both the legs can stand up, followed by this one, this one, this one. You want to leave a gap here. you've got to leave a gap here. That's going to be for the drainage. So when we've got the polythene sheets over here and here, and we've got the end panels on, we're going to cut along the bottom of the polythene so that when the water goes through the soil and through the drainage system, which will be gravel, pea gravel, the water can come out to the bottom here to reduce any sort of water becoming stagnant. At the top of the polythene, we're going to unscrew these top panels, these finishing off panels here, and we're going to tuck the polythene underneath here so that there's no edge, there's no horrible edge of the polythene on show. So you'll just see this top edge here. It's going to be polythene down here, polythene up here, polythene's tucked underneath this edge, and then you'll just see the nice, well finished Douglas fir, treated Douglas fir. The group's name plate will be here in acrylic. They'll have their group name, the school logo, and then the commemorative green ribbon for the World Mental Health Day. So each team will have their own planter placed around the school grounds, and then they can be maintained every week by the relevant team.